It's a personal choice. I always say go within. However, I feel like I have discovered food freedom. I don't obsess about food anymore. Like Oprah was talking about in the show, how without this medication, she would obsess about food. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yes, that would be me. Now, the spiritual path has led me to a place where I do not obsess about food anymore. I never would have thought that would be possible. I celebrate food. I am not ashamed of enjoying food. I'm not ashamed of my body anymore. And I get better and better at it. It's not 100% there. So I feel like I've found the keys to the kingdom and I want to shout it from the rooftops. And yet I also understand why someone might choose to take the medication. Welcome to the Delicious Alignment and the Art of Abundance podcast. We cover topics related to health, wealth, and happiness from a spiritual and metaphysical point of view. I'm your host, author, and intuitive coach, Rhonda Ryder. Would you like to win a coaching session with me? Here's a way you can become eligible. Simply share the link to this podcast, deliciousalignment.com/podcast, or share a specific episode on Facebook or Instagram and tag me, and you'll be entered into a drawing. At the first week of every month, I'll announce the winner and contact you to set up your free session. I look forward to meeting you. So about today's episode, my friend Timothy Waterman and I discuss Oprah Winfrey's special that you can now watch on Hulu called Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution, which focuses a lot on the drugs that are now in the headlines that people are taking for weight loss. So it is very, very controversial. And we want to get in there and discuss it from a metaphysical point of view. So get ready to hear some new 5D perspectives on the subject. I left in the 15-minute after chat Timothy and I had after we thought we were finished with the episode because it was so good. So enjoy this little behind the scenes bonus content at the end. Let's get started. Hi, Timothy.
Hi, Rhonda. So good to be back with you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this impromptu conversation with me. I was going to do a solo episode because it really interested me. I watched the Oprah special and I thought, oh, it would be so much more fun to have this conversation with somebody that gets it, that gets the metaphysical aspect of it. And I immediately thought of you. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yes. And I know you watched Oprah's special on Shame and Blame and the Weight Loss Revolution that just aired on Monday, really talking about the weight loss drugs that the country is all talking about. I think people are coming out of the woodwork now saying that they're on it now that she did that, which is interesting to me. No judgment, which is really why I wanted to do this show. No judgment. Oh gosh, there's so much judgment around this topic.
Yeah, no, it's coming at it from metaphysics. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
To me, these are perspectives, and when I'm speaking, I'm never like speaking because I want someone to think the way that I think. I'm simply sharing where I've landed amidst of a world full of perspectives. And I'm simply sharing the perspectives that just feel good to my heart and soul. And so the main thing that stood out to me, and I've been thinking about this as I knew I was feeling into this as I knew I was gonna speak to you, is that what feels really relevant for me to offer again as a perspective is that all of these ways that we look at things are learned, if you ask me. And so when we're looking at anyone, however they look, however they appear, and we have, let's say, a snap judgment, or we say something's wrong, quote unquote, wrong. To me, that's where I pause and I ask myself the question, did I come into this world with this snap judgment, with this perspective? For
Mm.
me, I feel the answer is no, because I can tell you, I have a lot of nieces and nephews. One of them just turned one recently. And I look very different than most people in his world. I'm the only one I know that has these big stretched ears and has a mohawk haircut. And I wear t-shirts that have skulls on them. I'm the only one that looks like that in my like family dynamic. And my nephew looks at me no different than anyone else. Just because I feel like my nephew that's one is seeing me through a clear lens. Like he doesn't have the stories, he doesn't have the judgments. He just
Mm-hmm.
sees me and he's just, oh, like you're a face and I really don't have anything to say about it. But I feel like he's feeling into more of my vibration. And he's more concerned with, does this person feel warm and cozy? Are they smiling? And when I smile, he smiles. So I just wanted to lead off with my perspective is so much. I know that these topics can have really heated opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And what's helpful for me is remember that I didn't come in with any real perspectives or narratives or judgments. I just took on things from the world. And what I've been doing since then is really looking at the opinions I took on and asking myself on an energetic measure, does it feel good to hold this perspective? Does it feel good to my heart and soul? And
Mm.
when it doesn't, I let go because judgments don't feel good to me. And
Yeah.
the more I identify a judgment, I'm like, oh yeah, I think I can let this go now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for opening up with that. And I did want to go through I wrote some like Oprah. I wrote some
Yeah.
index cards. And I do want to say that I do learn a lot from her interviewing.
Hmm.
And I agree with you. This is um, a lot of what judgments are from humans is a lot of learned responses,
Hmm.
just like the whole topic of fat shaming and then
Hmm.
judging. Now I feel like it's not only judging people for how they're not losing weight, now judging people for how they're losing weight. I just want to say up front, I would really like to go through these and get through as many as we can in this short time we have together. But I just would like to say that me personally, you know, today I wouldn't choose to go on Ozempic or anything like that. And I know you and I both, I have interviewed you before, and if people want to hear your story, they can. I'll put the link to that episode in the show notes about your journey to loving your body and transforming your body. I have my own story of learning how to love my body and transforming my body, actually releasing a lot of weight and feeling good about that and really enjoying that. However, if I was back to my highest weight right now, having had no quote unquote success, who knows? I might decide to take the drug. I mean, what is right for one person isn't right for another. It's about what you said, what feels good to you. So let's hit these cards and go through some of the points that they went through on the show. So I want to start out with saying that she started out the show, Oprah Winfrey, on a statistic, which whatever this statistic means, because says these people are obese, okay? But 100 million people in the United States and 1 billion people in the world are living with obesity. So I don't know. I just don't like that word, obese. Just don't like that word. But what do you think about that number and the word obese?
For me, again, this is my perspective. I'm careful with labels and really also being careful of what meaning I'm giving to a label. Because again, since this is a metaphysical conversation,
Yes.
I am always, what I personally feel is that my thoughts and my narratives, my stories about anything are very powerful. And what I've seen in my own life is that in my life is that the stories come first. The stories, the definitions, the labeling comes first. And then I get a reflection back from my physical reality experience. And so if I'm getting a certain reflection and it hits me a certain way where I'm just like, something about this reflection, it doesn't really feel the best. For me, I've learned to take personal inventory and say, do I have a story that is creating this reflection? Am I labeling something in a certain way that's creating this reflection? And I find over and over again that I do. And so for me, what I found is just to become more neutral rather than applying a label that I've heard over and over again from voices outside of me. For me, I try to stay curious and open. So I'll be very
Mm.
candid with you. I was fit for most of my life. I was a gymnast, then I became a bodybuilder, and I was just like into fitness for most of my life. And in the past few years, I just haven't felt the same passion to exercise. Like for the first time, I've had experiences where I have a little bit of a belly. I have a little bit of the love handle thing going on. And even my butt is a little bit saggy. And I know all the societal rhetorics about this. Like I know all the societal opinions and I catch them. And when I catch them, I just look in the mirror and I pause and I go, but what if I can just stay neutral? What if I can just stay neutral and just see what's in front of me, not make up a story, not go into judgment? I can also ask what my preference is from this place. Do I prefer being fit again? I can ask that question. But I don't, for me, I don't like to label it. I like just to say, this is what I'm seeing. How do I feel about it? What do I want from here? Which gives me that clarity. And then I can work on. So, for instance, I'll say, how would I feel if I had a fit body again in my own assessment? And the answers will come, oh, I'd feel strong. I'd feel energetic. I'd feel good in my body. And then I personally, rather than going into an old story or judgment or anything like that, I'm just like, what if I could cultivate those feelings of feeling good in my body now? And I'm not kidding. When I do that, I find that the next day when I look in the mirror, it's like things are different. Like all of a sudden, the reflections change and it looks more like my preference, if that makes sense. And so I'm just very careful with labeling and
Yeah.
stories, especially when the stories don't feel good, if that makes sense.
Yes, I love what you're saying, and I agree. And I feel like that conversation is really up here.
Yeah.
And I have been somebody who m would have been labeled obese, right, by the medical
Yeah.
society. And I have been in, this is why I'm so passionate about this, and I wanted to have this conversation
Yeah.
because I have been there where I was probably would clinically be diagnosed by the medical profession as obese. I was binging all the time, binging, and it wasn't that I didn't know when I was full. That the show was talking about a lot about how a lot of people, they don't have the chemistry in their body that tells them when they're full, so they keep eating. That wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I was full. My body was telling me when I
Yeah.
was full, but I kept eating. It was like I knew that what I was doing was numbing myself. Like my dad
Yeah.
was an alcoholic and he was numbing himself so he wouldn't feel his emotions. I was numbing myself so I wouldn't have to feel the uncomfortable emotions. And I kept eating. I would kept eating. So I feel like, and I just want to take a moment here, Timothy, and then I'll let you respond. But I just want to take a moment and say I understand where these people are
Mm-hmm.
coming from. These people meaning people who are turning to the drug because they're experiencing either they don't know why, right? Chemically, they're not feeling the fullness, or they just keep eating like I was doing way
Mm-hmm.
beyond the past of hunger. Now, for so many years, decades, I wasn't able to find a solution. I tried Overeaters Anonymous, I tried coaches, I tried all different things. And then eventually I found Abraham and I started listening and listening. Things started to get a little bit better. And then I felt the guidance to write my book, Delicious Alignment, and how 25 women learn to love and transform their bodies using Abraham Hicks and Law of Attraction. And then I started using those teachings to help me. And I started to release pounds. And I really wanted to understand, what is Abraham talking about? And then I went beyond Abraham. And I think you also have found food freedom. and loving your body, accepting our bodies. Maybe it doesn't look the way exactly I want it to, or my arms or whatever. For me, my thighs, right? And still, I feel like I'm loving my body more and more as time goes on. Even now, as okay, great. Now I've got aging to deal with. I got the thing about loving my body. And then I start to get older or look older. And then, now that's interesting. Another thing, great. Another opportunity to practice loving your body. So, where I really want to get to is that this 3D reality is one thing. And when I say 3D reality, yes, the physical rules of gravity and all these other things. And of course, you want to find these solutions here in medicine or this or that. And so there's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's a personal choice. I always say go within. However, I feel like I have discovered food freedom. I don't obsess about food anymore. Like Oprah was talking about in the show, how without this medication, she would obsess about food. And 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, yes, that would be me. Now, the spiritual path has led me to a place where I do not obsess about food anymore. I never would have thought that would be possible. I celebrate food. I am not ashamed of enjoying food. I'm not ashamed of my body anymore. And I get better and better at it. It's not 100% there. So I feel like I've found the keys to the kingdom and I want to shout it from the rooftops. And yet I also understand why someone might choose to take the medication. And I really just, my message is, can we stop judging people? Can we stop judging their choices, what's right for them? That's, what I feel like I could tear up about it.
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree. We really don't know what it's like to be in anyone else's shoes. And we're also not their inner voice. I feel that we all have our own unique inner voice. And to me, I refer to it as my soul, but I know other people say inner being or higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's just that inner guiding light that truly knows our whole experience and it knows our whole journey, everything we've been through. And that's the personal way that I gauge all my choices and decisions as I feel into that inner knowing. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know the answer that's going to come from anyone else's inner knowing. And because I don't know what their life and their journey has been like. So, yeah, that's what I always advocate for is, and this is what I help people do. I help people listen to that authentic place within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like I know, and a lot of times people are swarmed by thoughts and opinions and outside perspectives. And I get that can feel overwhelming if there's a pattern of giving a lot of weight to outside perspectives. And I've just found in my own journey that the more I've listened to my own inner knowing, inner being, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is that those answers always just serve me best. They always just serve me
Yes.
best. And they do know the whole equation. They do know all of my elements and aspects of my current life situation and everything I've been through. And so I personally seek for guidance from that. And so that's what I just encourage others to do too. It's okay. I know there's a lot of maybe
Mm-hmm.
opinions around you. And sometimes I help people just so they can relax and calm and really just, I've had a lot of practice helping people move into their heart. And when they're in their heart, what I have observed is that the answer is usually very simple. It's usually just like a
Mm-hmm.
yes or no. And so, whatever the question is this right for me? In the heart, when people are really in that simple place, like I've just observed from myself and from others, they'll feel, but hear, no, it's not right for me. Or, yeah, this is okay. At least for right now, this is okay. And so that's why and this is what I find myself echoing what you've said. Like when I hear people in my life trying to tell everyone else what they should do, like I have the same thing. I'm like, how would you know? You don't know what it's like to walk 10 steps in their shoes.
I want to take a quick moment to make sure you know that I am now accepting new coaching clients. The method I use in my coaching helps shift energy in a powerful and sustainable way. My specialty is helping you love your body and discover food freedom. And I have 5 steps from my book to help you go within and discover this freedom for yourself, just like I did and many of my clients as well. Go to deliciousalignment.com/coaching to see what people are saying about working with me. You can also book a session there or a coaching package. You can also find my book, Delicious Alignment: How 25 Women Learn to Love and Transform Their Bodies Using Abraham Hicks and the Law of Attraction, by searching my name on Amazon, or you can click on the link in the show notes. Now back to the interview. If this was even 30 years ago, I want so bad to be skinny that I would probably take the drug because I want so badly to be thin, because I want to fit in. I want to look good. I want to have that experience. So is that wrong? I don't know. Who am I to judge that person 30 years ago? That was a different person. And now people today who have serious health issues, and they're attributing it to their weight, and they're weighing the pros and cons of taking the drug. And today, now, like you said, I would go within and ask my inner being, or just feel into it, what feels right, not intellectualize it. Yeah, I would go by my intuition. Yeah, for sure. So I want to get into some of these things. I want to talk about shame, because Oprah Winfrey started out the show talking about how she was shamed for 25 years because of her body. And the famous designer, I forget his name right now, but on the cover of TV Guide was the headline, a picture of her at some award show, whatever. It said, "Bumpy, lumpy, and downright dumpy." And it was about her and how she looked, best dressed, worst dressed. And I just want to say that I was ridiculed, made fun of. So back then, like, I remember I wasn't asked to be in one of my best friend's weddings as a bridesmaid. And I overheard my dad say to my mom, "Is it because of her weight?" And he didn't know any better at the time. We're not educated. We're just thinking that having this extra weight is a negative. It's a bad thing. That stuck with me my whole life, thinking, oh, yeah, see, something wrong with me. I'm not pretty and I'm fat. I understand that shame. I could give so many other examples. And I think that one of the good things coming out of the show is the conversation being brought to the forefront. So fat shaming maybe will become less and less as it is. I think it is now maybe not so politically correct to fat shame people. Like, I remember rewatching some of the Friends episodes, so much fat shaming going on, and all kinds of shaming about people with different sexual orientations. They got away with so much then. Times have changed. I'm happy about that this is bringing the conversation about fat shaming. I don't think you had too much of that fat shaming going on. Maybe it was your own self that was doing that to yourself. Like me, I did that to myself too.
I was in my younger years, I was on the opposite side of the spectrum. So I turned to what's referred to as anorexia as a coping mechanism when I was a teenager. So I was at the point where I was so thin that people were making remarks. Are you okay? What's wrong? Something seems like there's something wrong with you, and like your skin and bones type thing. And so I was getting the reflections on the other side of the spectrum. So again, I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like to be anyone else. I will say, here's the thing I've learned though, and there were some things in the episode that stood out to me. And I'm also going to add this for context that I feel when we're young and we don't, because again, we're having this metaphysical conversation. I know we both have studied a lot of really amazing metaphysical teachers. And so when I look back then, I just didn't know any better. I didn't really understand how reality works. And I didn't understand that once I accepted a perspective, that it would then be mirrored back to me because I was choosing to replay the perspective in my head. And so what's standing out to me is without knowing any better, without knowing how it works, what I see in myself and I feel like I've observed in others is that we just unknowingly let these perspectives in, whatever the judgment is. And once we let it in, if we do take it on as our own and we start to invest in that story, because of the way reality works, we will get those reflections. And it's not to punish us, it's so that reality is basically showing us, like, here's the story you're telling about yourself. Now, again, at 15, 17, even 30, I had no clue that's how it works. I do get it now. And so what I feel that I witness happening is just without knowing any better, because here's the common theme I've seen. And it comes up like, oh, I didn't even think that about myself until someone else said it. So there we go. Outside perspective being projected onto someone. And what I continue to see is just innocently, we let that perspective in. And something in us goes, oh, maybe that's true. And so then we start telling that story, that narrative, and then we get the reflections. And I know the reflections can feel intense and they don't feel good. But also, again, just speaking from that place of just really understanding the nature of reality, all that's really happening is reality is saying, here's the story you're telling. Do you want to keep telling this story? And again, for someone who doesn't know how reality works, I know it can be confusing. However, to me, it just speaks to how powerful we are. And just to, again, just for anyone who is metaphysically aware, just really, I would just invite, just pay attention to any narratives you've taken in that don't feel good, and just notice that they don't feel good. And do you want to keep telling them? Because again, I didn't have it in terms of being overweight, but I had it in terms of being skinny. I had it in terms of my sexual orientation. I had a lot of negative projections. And I can tell you, I suffered greatly from the reflections about sexual orientation because I made them true for myself. I absorbed the outside perspective and I made it true for me. And that's when I began to suffer. That's when I began to feel shame because I said, okay, I'm going to take on this perspective as my own. And then I felt shame, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes total sense. And again, I know we said we wanted to do a metaphysical conversation, and that is a high level conversation because we could go into that whole bit of, I created this mirror reflection. I created this Oprah Winfrey special myself and something to talk about so that I could do this podcast, and we're creating all of it. But to your point, we could look at that show and what feels good about that show, what doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And just take what feels good and leave the rest. There's some things they said that felt really good to me. And there's some things that they said that didn't. And I'm like, okay, this whole point of, which I really want to get to, obesity is a disease. Like one of the things Oprah said is, obesity is a disease. The American Medical Association declared that 10 years ago. And somehow she missed that memo. I like to go down there into that nitty-gritty statement about obesity is a disease and explore a little bit how we feel about that comment, that statement. Just because the American Medical Association declared that, yes, that means, does that mean it's true? How do you feel about the medical profession? How do I feel about obesity is a disease? I was in Overeaters Anonymous, and pretty much I think they were saying that it's not your fault is the comforting thought about that. It's not your fault. And that was very comforting for me when I was a young, even 19-year-old going to Overeaters Anonymous and hearing that it's not my fault. And whether it's disease or not, that helped me at that point. You see, that helped me then. So if it's helping you, great. To anyone listening, if that's helping you, if that's comforting you, if that feels good, great. And we're on this journey and we keep evolving. Like now, if it's a disease, how come I don't have the disease anymore and I didn't take the drug? So they're telling people that you need to take the drug. And if you have the disease, not you need to take it, but it will, there's benefits to it because you're helping your brain work in a way that it understands when you're full and all that kind of stuff. However, like for me, where I am now today is a different person. And I have found food freedom and loving my body. So I think back then, I really feel like I had the disease. But when you enter a new dimension, right? These rules don't apply when you go into the fifth dimension where, and when I say fifth dimension, it's just another level of spirituality where the rules of everyday 3D reality, the logical rules, they don't apply anymore. That's how I make sense of it.
Like, no, I've had a lot of experience with that too. Again, just seeing how based on the level of consciousness, and that's why I'm sharing the perspectives that I am, because they just are coming from this expanded level of consciousness. It's not better than anything else. It's just, it's to me, it's expanded. So it just helps me see things more clearly and just see more the energy that's behind all of these things. And as I've seen the energy that's behind a lot of these things, it makes so much sense to me. And yeah, again, I would never try to tell anyone what is right for them. I would, again, advocate if they're considering a choice, again, to feel in what feels best to you from that place of your heart.
And how do you feel about that? Maybe you're getting there, but so obesity is a disease.
Yeah. So that term right there, to me implies that someone is these things, that term implies that a being, an organism, because disease is not just used for human beings, it's used for plants and other things. And so to me, it just that the energy behind that is there's something not at ease within that being or that person. And so what stands out to me is that I would imagine, because again, based on my own journey and just the type of processing that I help others do, that there's something that's not at ease within that person. It's an energetic, emotional thing, or maybe a number of things where, the body is responding to this lack of ease. So for instance, like I can't reference a specific study here, but I actually used to work in holistic wellness for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in that realm, I heard a lot of stories. And again, I can't pinpoint in my memory where exactly I heard this story, but I would hear things like people that have heart attacks. Like there's been these studies done where a high percentage of people that have heart attacks are holding on to really significant grudges. Like they have really strong grudges. So holding animosity towards someone, and that holding of animosity creates a lack of ease, which then this word dis-ease comes in. And so the body was responding to that lack of ease. And so beyond the label, I would just be more concerned. Like I always go to what is at the heart of the matter? Like, how does this person feel about themselves? Because the label can mean any number of things, but I would just want to get to like, how does this person really feel about themselves? What are the stories, the emotions that are keeping them from feeling at ease? Because I've just found in my experience that when my body is at ease, like things do come into balance. Things like they just start to reorient themselves and things get healthier because
Yeah.
mostly the perspective on self changes. And then I want to be better to self. I'm always like, what's at the core of the matter? Like, how is this person feeling? That's what that word brings up for me. Like, how do they really feel?
I think that when you're in the throes of it, in the real mud and sludge of everyday cycle of, like for me, binging or just keep eating because the fullness never comes. you're 300 pounds, 400 pounds, those extremes, or even for me, 213 pounds probably was my highest. And I might have gone higher because I stopped weighing myself and I'm 5'3". So it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of weight. It's a lot of concern. Let's face it, about your health. Maybe your cholesterol's real high, your blood pressure, all these kinds of things. And then at that time in your life, a lot of times there's not a whole lot of bandwidth to say, be all namaste about it because you're so deep in it. And I think it serves a purpose. For me, it served a purpose, like a spiritual purpose, a journey. Like now I look at it like actually my journey with my body has led me to go within eventually and really get on this beautiful journey of raising my consciousness and all of that. However, I guess what I'm saying is when someone is in the thick of it, it's hard for them to apply what we were saying. Or maybe that's just a perception.
So curious though, because again, I can reflect on what it was like for me, and that's all I really have as my own experience. But I am genuinely curious, back when it felt so thick for you, deep down, did you still know how you really felt about yourself? Did you know if you felt
I knew that I had a lot of criticism, self-hatred,
yeah.
and all of that. Yeah. I knew that.
Yeah. And so that's what I mean about getting to the heart of the matter is just letting someone be honest with themselves. Like, why are they not at ease? And so it sounds like your answers would have been like, I have a lot of criticism, I have a lot of self-hate. That to me would be where I would be looking, is to like just help someone get clear. Okay, like you have these criticisms, you have this self-hate. How does it feel? And just let them in that moment just sense in. And what I imagine the answer might be like, well, it doesn't feel good, but just, invite them to have their own clarity. Because again, that's why I wanted to ask you if you knew how you, even though it felt thick and
I knew.
complicated,
It was
you,
right there.
yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you. And you said, I still knew how I feel about myself. And
Yeah.
I'll just point back to, again, the anorexia. Like this was 25 years ago. I didn't have all this metaphysical wisdom, but I can tell you at that time, when I chose to use anorexia as a coping mechanism, I knew exactly why. In my head, I was saying, I'm terrified of life. And controlling food is the only thing I know how to control. So let me control something. Even though I was 15, had barely any life education, I knew that I was doing this because I was terrified of life. I knew that back then. So that's all I'm
Yeah.
highlighting is like, what's going on inside? Because even if we're
Yeah.
15, I feel like we still have some clue. Like, I'm afraid, I'm scared, I don't feel good enough. Like, we know something.
Yeah. I want to take a quick second to make sure you know about a few free gifts I have for you, including my Love Your Body, Love Your Life online course, which includes over 20 short videos based on the 5 steps outlined in part 1 of my book. Next is my free guided visualization on abundance. When you sign up for the free guided visualizations, you'll also receive 6 of my top interviews on prosperity. You can find all these resources and more at deliciousalignment.com/resources. Now back to the interview. I do work with a lot of people with food issues or body issues. Obviously, I say obviously because I wrote the book, and a lot of my work is around that, helping people learn how to love their bodies. And I knew what I was feeling, but I experienced that a lot of people really, it's all over the spectrum. Maybe they know, maybe they're not in touch at all with what they're feeling. And I use the Malice and method to help them get in touch with exactly what you're saying, get in touch with what they're feeling, because the food is numbing all of that, in my opinion. The food, for that's what I used it for. And I know that's a lot of people are using, just like they use food, just like they use alcohol, just any other self-medication, gambling, sex, whatever. We're using it in, I would say most cases, to numb, because we're either terrified of life or we have this self-criticism going on in my case and a lot of other people's cases. So it's just like on one hand, you're aware of the self-criticism, and on the other hand, you just want to numb it and not feel it. And that's my experience with working people. And so I love the calibration method to help people, to your point, feel what they're feeling and start to let that energy move through your body so that you can then calibrate yourself and start experiencing amazing emotions, or better, not amazing, maybe just a little bit better, just maybe a little bit of relief. And I tell you, Timothy, sometimes I'm working with someone and they get to just a feeling of calm. That's it.
Yeah.
And they're like, I haven't felt calm since I was a little girl. I haven't felt this.
Mhm.
Like, I can't even remember. And yeah, I love that when, it's so interesting when we begin to look at or feel into what are we feeling, even if it is self-disgust, start there and let's calibrate that to just a little bit of calm.
Yeah.
And then you can go from there and go from there and start. And maybe you want to take this medication while you're doing this. And maybe you're like, I would never do that. That is Satan. I would never do that. I don't want to take big farm. I don't want to feed big farmers pockets and all that kind of stuff. So you could like totally be on that side of the opinion that this stuff is all really bad for society and just lining the pockets of Oprah Winfrey and Big Pharma. Or you could be open to allowing people to choose for themselves, respecting other people's journey.
Yeah. Again, we don't know. We don't know the path of another. And everything's just an option. There's, as far as I'm concerned, there's a multitude of possibilities. At any given point, there may be like two that someone's considering. And again, only they know what it's like to be them. Only they know their journey up until this point. And I've just found in my experience that my inner being or my soul has a response to everything, to every question. And that's what I have learned to listen to. Now, earlier in life, I didn't know how to listen to that. So I would make choices that you could have said weren't in my highest alignment. And those were still valid choices. And I learned from those experiences. I'm just saying that wherever, because the other thing that's important to me is maybe not everyone is aware where they're making their decisions from. Maybe it's from outside pressure. Maybe it's from fear. Maybe it is from wanting to be in control. But even if someone's making a choice from those energies, and I'm not judging those energies or saying they're wrong, but even if they're making a choice from those energies, I would imagine along their life journey, they'll just learn whether that choice is really truly their preference or not, because they'll just see how it plays out and they'll see if it's a fit for them or not. I have found personally when I really tune into my inner being, the answers are simple and those choices do work out for the best. And so, again, we never even know what place someone is making a choice from. Are they trying to please other people? Are they giving into pressure? And again, wherever they're making it from, it's not right or wrong. They're going to learn on their path, just as we've all learned along our path. And I would say it's all facilitating getting to better know ourselves, because all the times I did things out of peer pressure, I learned in a matter of time that those didn't feel very good long term, which helped me get to better know myself. And so that's why I feel like lifting the any judgment or shaming, because again, we really, unless we're really with someone and willing to open our hearts and listen, we really have no clue where they're coming from. And I do feel it's really, for me, beautiful just to be like, I don't know where they're at. I don't know what place they're choosing from, but I know no matter what, like they're going to learn on their path. And most likely, whatever they're choosing is going to ultimately lead them to more of their own truth. So I'm just more of however someone learns and goes along their path to get to their own truth, let it be what it is. Respect the other's journey, because
Yes.
yeah.
respect their journey. And I will say one of the things that was said on the show that did trigger me a little, and again, this is just my own thing, is that once you start taking the drug, then you have to take it for the rest of your life. Otherwise, all the weight will come back. And I thought to myself, ooh, why would you be telling people that? Because we're getting our stimulus from outside ourselves and then taking that on as a new belief that okay, so now this is my new belief that I need to be on this drug for the rest of my life because that's what the scientists say. That's what the data shows. The data shows that if you get off the drug, you shall. And we know better. You and I operating out of not where logic rules. It's where metaphysics is not based on logic. It's based on law of attraction, and we create our own reality, and anything's possible. It's not logical. So if I go on the drug, say tomorrow, and then the doctor tells me I need to be on it for the rest of my life, that's not necessarily true in my mind. The doctor tells you one thing, but he's dealing with science and logic. I'm dealing with metaphysics. All things are possible. And as other people would say, but you're not in reality. You're not giving me realistic solutions. My daughter's saying that to me now. She'll ask me for advice, and then I'll give her metaphysical advice. And she'll say, I want some realistic, reality-based advice, Mom. And meanwhile, she knows about the law of attraction. I raised her on it. But now she's saying, so, okay, respect her journey. That's fine. My advice is to just see it as already done. And then it'll just rise up to meet you. That's my advice. And she's, oh God, can I have some reality here? But, however, metaphysically speaking, if a doctor tells me I need to be on this for the rest of my life, do I really? I can say, thank you. Yes, thank you. Can I have my prescription? And then just know that anything's possible. And the reason I could say that is because for sure, if this is a disease, obesity, I had it. And I'm using past tense because I was addicted to food, obsessed with food. And I no longer am. So I know it's possible. Anything's possible. I know it because I'm not the same person as I was.
Well, I was just gonna say, for me, I would phrase it as I know what I prefer. I've had enough life experience to know what I prefer, know which options I prefer, because I don't see it as anything's better than anything else. I see based on my study of metaphysics and the information that I channel, I just see that this life is all about preference. So rather than learning what's better than something else, it's just which do I prefer more? What is my preference? And again, that's going to be unique to me as opposed to anyone else. So I just know what I prefer. And again, what someone else prefers, like if someone is okay with doing something for a very long time, like again, who am I to say? That is their path, their journey. I just know what I prefer. And one thing I wanted to mention is that, again, because this is metaphysics we're playing with, is that there's a statement I love that says that many things are true based in the dimension of consciousness they are in. So as we know, and again, this is no judgment, this is not higher or better, this is just different experiences. As we know, in the third dimension, it's separation. Most people that talk about the third dimension refer to it as separation. So there are many beliefs in the third dimension which do feel true and which people will adhere to because they do feel true. That's just that experience of reality. And it's fine. It is what it is. It's not lower or less than anything else. It's just what that experience is. So yes, people like you and I that had this curiosity that led us to ask really big questions. And by asking big questions of existence, we summon new information. We're having a different experience of consciousness more and more of the time, where things that feel limiting, it stands out to us. We're like, whoa, that feels really limiting to me. Do I really want to play into the limitation? And by the way that you talk, and obviously by the way I talk, we're less and less interested in things that feel limiting. That's just what I would feel that you and I
Yes.
now prefer. We're like, I don't want to
Mm.
limit myself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what are the feel better options? Like, I'm going to keep searching until I find the feel better option. That's
Yes.
where I feel you and I
Yeah.
are at. What just feels better? I don't want
Mm.
to limit myself, is what I feel like you and I, that's the place you and I are in.
Mm.
It's just where we're at. That's all it is.
Nice. Yes. 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 That's very good. I like that, the way you express that. It does feel very limiting to me. Yeah, that thought of, but again, gosh, I love what you just said, because who's to say that truth is not correct?
Mhm.
Because in this world, your world, we're each creating our own worlds and our own experiences.
Mhm.
So in this world, this is correct. And then when you enter a new world, so to speak, which is simply a new level of consciousness, really,
Mhm.
then this is correct or a truth, because it's a truth for you.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like we're all on the same journey, but we're all on different parts of the journey. And one part is not better than the other or
Yeah.
more truthful than the other.
Yeah, on Earth, limitation is allowed. And only again, each being can decide what feels limiting to us might feel expansive to someone else based on where they're at. It might feel very freeing based on where they're
Mm-hmm.
at least for now. We don't know 10 years along their journey, that choice they've been making for 10 years, something may shift within them. They may start to ask new questions of life. And based on the information they summon into their consciousness, their awareness, that choice they've been making for 10 years may all of a sudden feel like they may just, oh, I feel like there's more. I feel like there's more options. And I don't know what they are, but I just want to be available. And so, yeah, limitation is allowed in the earth experience. And again, we just don't know. What feels like freedom for you might not even cross the radar of someone else. Something that feels limiting to you may feel like a new level of freedom for someone else. We don't know. And again, that's why to me, it's about just being curious and listening. And just if we really want to know something, genuinely ask, like, how does this, if it's someone that we have a relationship with or we want to get to know them better, and we feel it's okay to ask the question, we feel they're open to the question, I'm just curious, what is this decision, this choice, this, what is this about for you? And really listen, because
Mm-hmm.
then instead of guessing and assuming and getting caught up in all the opinions in our head, I found a lot of times when we invite them to actually share what's true for them, I found that I can be just like, whoa, it's not what I thought it was at all. Like when I really hear someone else's truth, and then also just be like, okay, this is just their path, their journey, and this is what feels good to them. So bless the journey, right? Bless
Yeah.
the journey. So,
Yes. And I feel like there's so much chatter and judgment about Oprah Winfrey, which I'm neutral on. However, another slightly triggering thought for me, I could see where this is all going, right? This is a movement. She called it a revolution. I think what's happening, what's going to happen, what they're hoping to happen is that the insurance companies will start to pay for this drug, cover it, because a lot of people that want to take it are not taking it because of the cost. So I could see in the future this will be something that you can qualify for if they screen you and your health is passes whatever tests, whatever they have, qualifications. Therefore, everybody's gonna be wanting it, because who doesn't want to be skinny in this society? There were people, especially the first woman, Amy, that Oprah interviewed, who had lost 160 pounds. She said that people were not only treating her differently, they were treating her children differently when she was in the park or in public. When she's 160 pounds heavier, people are treating her children differently as a reflection of her. And now they're nicer to her children. And I found that, I don't know, a little discomforting, but I understand it because of the fat shaming and the prejudice our society has against people in bigger bodies. And so, again, you're 20 years old, 25 years old, you can get access to this drug now. It's affordable because it's insured now. And so that's my own thing, right? That's my own kind of biases around, oh, what's going to happen to these poor individuals that are going to be taking these drug for maybe the wrong reasons. Maybe they have 10 pounds to lose in their minds, not my mind. And so they're taking the drug. So what, I don't even know, because that's my own thing. That's my own quote unquote fear that I don't want to be judgmental. However, that kind of irks me. Help me, Timothy.
What I perceive is that you're looking at it from your lens, and again, all the things that you're aware of, your preferences. And so based on you're seeing it from your preference. Like I'm hearing things like I wouldn't because, or I don't like that because it's not my preference because, which is fine because they are your preferences based on everything that you've been through. Here's the thing though, every single being in existence, which includes this planet, is free to check out all the options, to explore. And I feel we do get entangled when we look at a choice of another from our own lens because we're looking at it from our lens. We don't know the factors that are involved into why they're making that choice. We don't know where that path will lead. We really have no clue. I just feel confident that if they do choose, again, I'm just speaking from my own experience. There were many times that I made decisions that weren't coming from my heart or my inner being or my soul. And they were from something else, outside pressure, opinions, fear. I made plenty of choices like that in my life. And they all still served me because they showed me what happens when I don't listen to myself. And I'm not implying that people that choose to take any pill, whatever the pill is, I'm not implying that they're not listening to themselves. That's not what I'm saying. Again, there may be people that are weighing out this option and they're getting a big yes from their inner being. I don't know because everyone's circumstances and situations are unique. All I'm saying, because I feel the concern in your energy is, I feel what I'm picking up is I feel that if they do this, it might lead to that. And that doesn't feel very good for me. All I'm saying is that if person A does choose this and it does lead to that, kind of what you think may happen, I would just imagine that they'll learn from that and they'll just somewhere along the way, they'll say, this isn't what I thought it was. I don't like the results that I'm getting. So, you know what? Now that I know a little bit about this path that I've gone down, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And I would imagine that would lead in one way for them to get more clear within themselves and learn to listen. Because some people do go, you know what? I hear this said a lot. People will, because some people say, oh, I don't really have access to my intuition. But then a lot of people will say, if I look back, there was that voice telling me, like, don't do it. So a lot of people, even though they say they don't have a good connection to their intuition, they will still say things like, oh, I knew better. And
it felt off. Something about it felt
yeah.
off. It wasn't 100%. Hell yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I get your concern. I just feel confident that everyone's free. Everyone's free to choose. And if for some reason they are making a choice that maybe, let's say, is not really the choice that they're getting from their inner being, if that happens to be the case, whatever it is, I'm not just talking about like pills, I'm talking about anything. If they're coming from not, let's say, their inner being's perspective, I still feel that they're going to learn along the way. They're going to learn about themselves and they're going to have experience. Because look, now you're speaking from your experience. I learned about metaphysics. I learned about changing my thoughts and beliefs, having a whole different experience. You can only say that because you've gone down these avenues, these paths, and now you have life experience that to a lot of people feels exciting because you're talking about how you stopped limiting yourself. You only know because you went down those paths. And so I'm just offering that every path offers something, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you. That really does make sense and it really does feel good. Thank you for that because that really was bothering me about it. One thing about it. And there could be a lot of other things that are bothering people about it. Obviously, there's a lot of different opinions about all of this and charged emotions. So let's listen to Timothy and just know that it's all going to work out. People have their own inner beings and they're going to be okay. And just like I think about my kids, and I'm always, not always, but there's certain things, oh, but worrying about them a little bit here, a little bit there, and just knowing that's their path. And it's all gonna, it's all for their highest good. And I don't have to sit there and worry about their well-being all the time. That's not helpful to anybody. So let me see. Oh my gosh, we should have a part two on this. I still got a bunch of cards here, but I think we talked about the things that I really wanted to talk about, which was mainly not judging other people's journeys and allowing other people to make their own choices, following their own inner being. And really what you just said about other young people's journeys, if they get into this weight loss drug, that, oh, it's not the end of the world. They could go off of it. Their guidance might guide them to get off the drug, stay on the drug. It's their journey, not yours.
Yeah. And I just feel that, again, just based on the way that what I know about you and what you've shared, that I feel that people like you and I are in a place of, if someone said to us, what do you think I should do? I feel like someone like you and I would be like, actually, what do you feel is right for you in this scenario? And you and I have learned effective ways to help someone guide themselves into their inner being.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's not about what do I think about A, what do I think about B? All that really matters to me is that what feels, what my preference is, what feels better to me is that someone is learning how to listen to their most authentic truth. And so I'm just like, what does the deepest part of you have to say about this? And if you're open to it, I know techniques that may be able to help you get into that clarity more, as I know you do. So I'm less about, if someone says, what do you think about A? What do you think about B? I'm just like, it doesn't even matter. Everyone's free. They get to decide for themselves. So all that really, my preference is, are people listening to themselves? That's what
Yes.
that's what matters to me.
Yeah. And that sounds like I'm plugging my book, but that's what my whole book is about. Is like going within, and then there's 25 stories of women who learned how to love their bodies. And it's the stories are all about how they went within
Mhm.
and found what felt better, what was the right path for them. And it's constantly unfolding and evolving.
Yeah.
And each woman's story is different. One does keto, one does this, one does intuitive eating, one does nothing, one is just going within. And so it's not necessarily that they found a diet. They each found their own. Maybe some of them did find their one, found Weight Watchers. It's really such a individual journey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you again so much for meeting with me, Timothy, and just tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, so I'll send you my snip feed link. And so basically, it's just one link that leads to the menu of all my things, my sessions and services, my podcast. Like I do have a free 30-minute consultation available. My social, it's all covered in this one menu. It's called a snip feed link. So I'll send that over to you.
They can find you on Facebook. Are you on
Yeah,
Instagram?
it's at Self Love with Tim.
Yeah. Okay, that's easy. At
Yeah,
Self Love with Tim.
yeah,
And I'll put that link in the show notes so people can find you.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Timothy. I really appreciate this conversation.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's like hour and a half almost. So yeah, we could talk more about it for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, that is awesome. I'm
yeah.
passionate about this topic, huh?
Yeah, it is multifaceted in the sense that, yeah, based on which dimension of consciousness you're looking at it from, I feel like you'll get a different response. So if you're looking at it from the right and wrong, like that brings up a whole set of ideas. Whereas to me, like that's why I was just advocating freedom. Like I don't know. It's like it's whatever's right for them. That to me is more like the fifth dimensional. And so it's And that's why I pointed out too, like, for instance, like for your daughter, if she, let's just say that like some of the things that still work for her, like are third dimensional, no judgment, that's not wrong. That's why when you're presenting fifth perspectives, let's just like A and B wavelength, because she's just interested in this way of exploring life. And so it's fine that you offer, but that's just why I would imagine she's just no, like I'm over here exploring this way. So not really meshing. And it's okay because we all get to explore how we choose to, right?
Yeah. Yes. There was a time when she was open to those conversations
Yeah.
and just like reading the room, just
Hmm.
knowing, they're not interested in that perspective and that I back off. Or
Yeah.
I don't usually bring it up with people unless I know we've had similar conversations and they're in the same like-minded kind of conversations and beliefs. But yeah, I don't just dump that on other people. But she's very familiar. She was asking me for advice about asking for a raise. She has her
Um,
6-month review and she wants to ask for a raise. So I was like, oh, goody. Just, okay, this is what you do. You just like,
yeah.
you visualize and you
Yeah.
see it is already done. You prepave it. And she's, oh my God,
Yeah.
Mom, stop. I
Yeah.
just want some realistic advice. Oh, oh, okay. All right. Just Google it then. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been so long since
Yeah.
I've been in the corporate world that
Yeah.
having to ask for a raise, I don't know. And I just, so then I
Yeah.
gave her some tips, but basically
Yeah.
I would have to
Yeah.
research it.
Yeah. This is just where your mom comes from these days. Like this
she
is the realm your mom operates in.
yeah, she doesn't know because I don't really talk about it that
Yeah.
much anymore because I've really gone to the fifth dimension and it's
Yeah.
just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, I can tell it's very the sub just based on the energy I felt from when I first watched it, but then also I saw that your post got a lot of comments really fast. But this is to me just what I see. I feel like I see a lot of people are still just caught up in right and wrong
Yeah.
and even judgment because it's Oprah's free to live this life how she wants to live this life. I mean, we don't know where Oprah's coming from. And it seems like it is polarizing because a lot of people are just coming from that right and wrong. And that's why I just wanted to advocate for we don't know what's best for anyone else. We don't know what's best
Hmm.
for Oprah. We don't know why she's exploring the avenues that she is. We can say, based on what I see, it's not my preference, but ultimately, Oprah's just as free as everybody else.
Yeah. And I was surprised that after that show, so many people came out. Whoopi Goldberg and these other people, this other lady, Sunny Houston on The View, and then these other people on that thread that I posted. Oh, I'm on it. And yeah, it's the best thing ever. And I'm on it. So there's so many people that are on the drug that probably didn't feel comfortable saying they're on the drug. And now they are. So again, to your point, who's to judge
Yeah.
what's right for them or wrong, or who's to judge at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever that path looks like for each person, because it'll be different for each person, like 10 steps, 20 steps, a million steps down the path, that may change for some people. Other people may just, some people may be like, oh, I don't mind the side effects. We don't know. Again, our preferences can be a million miles away from someone else's. So, like, how can we really say?
Yeah. It's you're going for the what feels better, the relief. And I even heard someone share that, I don't know if I don't say the person's name, that they got some coaching from a high level channel. They got conflicting feedback from two different channels. Like one channel saying, oh, but you're still going to have to deal with this vibrationally. And then another channel saying, no, this is your intuition. This felt better to you.
Yeah.
So no, just do what feels better,
Yeah.
period. And if they were soothing this person. And so it's just, again, you'll get different, even within channels, you can get different
Yeah.
perspectives.
Yeah. I think it was, yeah, you asked Oprah, and Oprah did say it's situational, it's based on who's summoning and at what moment they're summoning from. And I can see how, and from my perspective, both can be true. Because one can be like, if it feels better for now, just okay, it feels better for now. Who's to say what's down the road? So I can see that. But then also, they did say in the special that if people come off of this, it's things just go back to the way they were. And so to me, the only reason it's working is because people believe that it will. Like they have a really dominant belief that this will work, but they're, like you said, they're giving power to something outside themselves. The story is, if I put this thing in, I'll get the result I want. And because that's their belief, that's what they get. But along with that belief is, if I don't have this, then things go back to the way they were. And so that's to me why
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, if we're talking about dis-ease, to me it's a lack of ease. So I personally, based on what I've seen and lived, would want to ask, okay, what's going on the inside? Because I would imagine that everyone has a story, and a story about why they don't feel good, which can cause all kind of reactions in the body. But then I was also reflecting on it, like even in, because Abraham would say that everything starts with the thoughts. And so when you look at some of these situations, and I was reflecting on my own life experience, a lot of these children, even in the special, the first girl, her mother said, I have struggled with weight my entire life. So as a kid, we are very
Mm-hmm.
impressionable. We pick up
Mm-hmm.
on the thoughts that our parents so and what our
Mm-hmm.
parents are saying. And I took on a lot of guilt and shame about things from less than five based on what my parents were saying. And they created, because I was picking up on the thoughts and the vibrations. And part of me was like, a big part of this, why the daughter's having these experiences, could be the thoughts that she picked up from her mother. And she
Yeah, I
started
had
to,
the same thought. Yeah.
yeah, like she started telling this, whether it's I'm overweight or I can't stop eating. And so it is a high level look at it, but it's like, to me, I'm like, we don't know that it's happening as kids. Again, we're innocent, but we are picking up these stories, and we are
Mm-hmm.
picking up from our parents and taking on those energies. To me, it is freeing if we can get to a point where we can see that this is the story I tell, so this is the reflection I get. Um, but also, I feel like to get there, your defenses have to be down. You have to be willing to see that you're the creator.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point that it works because you believe it works, that's another
Yeah.
aspect to it. And so great. That's wonderful. Like this works because I believe it works. So who cares if it works? And it's
Yeah.
bringing you relief and more enjoyment of life and all those
Yeah.
things. And I also remember in Al Anon, I would go to Al Anon at some point in my younger years as a daughter of an alcoholic father. And just, I would even go to some AA meetings too. And they would say that it's a progressive disease. So if you stop drinking, let's say, and then the moment you pick it up, it's going to be worse than before because it's progressive. And then Overeaters Anonymous would say the same thing in relation to food, that once you go back to eating all those things, or they were like, really, this is a long time ago, but no white flour, no sugar, no this and that. And once you go back to those things, it's progressive and it's going to be worse than before. And I believe that because that's what they told me. But on my spiritual journey, I did not find that to be true. I found, food freedom and through my spirituality and going within. If I have sugar or white flour now, I don't go on a food binge. But I choose not to have too much of that stuff anymore because it doesn't agree with me. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
My body. But that's
Yeah.
another belief that allergies, that's a whole, no, a whole nother.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of these things are collective narratives, and just again, high level, the only reason we'll get a certain result is if we buy into that collective narrative. If we start telling the same narrative, we'll get a reflection of that, because This is what comes through my channel. Like my guides have been very straightforward. They're like, it's your story. It's the story you're telling. End of story. They're
Yeah.
like you're the narrator. So if you say this is a disease and this is the way it's going to go and this is how it's going to unfold, reality is going, okay, whatever you say,
Here's,
boss, whatever you say,
yeah.
boss.
Here's the evidence.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the
So,
evidence.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I have that belief that certain foods don't agree with me. And therefore, whatever you say, boss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, again, I do also feel that the body is very complex and it has a lot going on. So I do feel there is that intelligence that just in one moment it may not be right because who knows energetically what the body's doing. So the body's feedback may be like not right now, but 2 days later, if I ask the body inner being 2 days later, it might be like, yeah, now it's okay. To me, it's always like in the moment because I've examined that. Like I was gluten free for years, and now there's times where I'm presented with something that feels really good that I think is going to taste really good, and it has like GMO gluten in it on the label, but I just say I'm more powerful. I'm going to enjoy
Hmm.
this, and I eat it, and I just don't tell a story. I'm like I wanted that, so I had it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And really there's nothing wrong either with having a belief, for in my case, having a belief that certain foods I choose to stay away from them because I have this negative reaction in my body. It doesn't feel good
Yeah,
physically.
totally, totally,
And
yeah,
nothing wrong with that. It's really about beliefs. And
yeah,
like I remember studying Abraham on this topic to write the book, and it's what's the path of least resistance? The path
yeah,
of least resistance with that belief is to, for me, not to have those foods.
yeah, totally,
That's the
yeah,
path of least, or do I want to try and change those beliefs? That doesn't feel good. That doesn't
yeah,
feel like the easiest path.
yeah.
So just working with that.
Yeah, it's like what just came to me is if you put your hand in a hot stove, you would just say, that doesn't work out well for me. Not a fan. So if you eat a
Right.
food and like you get a result you don't like, that doesn't, not a fan of that option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really don't like those cramps in my stomach. Not really a fan of
Yeah,
that.
not a fan.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and get this out tomorrow.
Okay.
Um, do my best.
No worries. But yeah, I know it's charged, and I guess the reason I felt excited is that I do feel excited about bringing these metaphysical perspectives to these subjects, and I know may not everyone may get it. However, as you said, you and I have found a lot of freedom in playing in these perspectives, and so I was just like, let's see what happens if I just bring these more neutral, we're all free perspectives to this subject. So having said that, yeah, I hope that's my intention is that people will just, relax into the, oh, okay, yeah, we all have freedom. Let's chill out.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment. You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. Let's just chill out.
But for the people that this message resonates with, they'll be attracted to it, and
Yeah.
hopefully it'll help some people
Yeah.
not have so much shame around any choice that they make and that can
Yeah.
help them with their body.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. I'll tag you when it's all ready.
Sounds good. Thank you again.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Okay.
Yep, no problem.
All
All
right.
right.
Talk to you
Bye.
soon. Okay.
Yep.
Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode. To connect with Timothy Waterman, find him on Facebook at TIMAAY and on Instagram at Self Love with Tim, or go to snipfeed.co/life as Timothy. And here are a few ways you can connect with me. You can join my Facebook group, Delicious Alignment. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel and leave a comment or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This way, you'll never miss an episode. You can also follow me on Instagram at Delicious Alignment. Feel free to tell your friends about this podcast. I would so appreciate that because you sharing this podcast is the absolute number one best way to help us grow. All the links mentioned are in the show notes as well. Join me every Thursday for a new episode. Well, that's it for today, my friend. I will see you next week.